Hello. I'd like to provide you with some background and supplemental information for our presentation at the 2021 Learning and Teaching Forum. Our presentation will be about a curriculum enhancement piece, which is a toolkit of resources for faculty to integrate the UN Sustainable Development Goals into their module and course content. In today's talk, I'd like to take you on a little bit of a journey through the history of sustainability, to look at the governance structure in some of our guiding frameworks, and looking at sustainability as an ecosystem, and then bringing it back to the curriculum.
The sustainability journey at UCC began in earnest in 2006 when students were voicing concerns about waste practices and recycling on the campus, which resulted in the following year pilot program to address this issue. And also a Green Campus Committee was formed where students could have a platform to organize and voice further concerns. 3 years later, UCC was awarded a green flag for its efforts in sustainability and became the first university worldwide to be bestowed this honor. At the same time, UCC ranked number 2 in the UI green metric and has remained in the top 10 ever since. And in 2013, a Green Forum was established, which was a wider, more expansive scope than the Green Campus Committee. CUH, which is Cork University Hospital, was also awarded a green flag, and that's the teaching hospital for the university. 2016 was a landmark year in that there was a sustainability strategy launched. There was also a module launched in sustainability, a university-wide module, which was open to members of the general public, as well as students and staff. And so it provided a rich opportunity for interaction among these groups. That same year, a book was launched in transdisciplinarity, looking at the sort of reflecting this culture that has been emerging at the university. And the specific subject of that book was in relation to a transition to sustainability. In 2018, there was a Gold Star Award given to the university, which I'll be talking a little bit more about.
So really, the key enabler to sustainability, I think, in any organization, it really comes down to the people. And is there a will of the people? And at all levels, it just can't be top down or bottom up, but it needs to sort of gather in different levels and to really to reach and to gain a large network. And here you can see a diversity of faces here, from young students to seasoned professors, and but also we're trying to incorporate really a multicultural aspect to this when we're creating the language of sustainability, so that we can really be inclusive to our larger society. So within the sort of the governance of sustainability at the university, there's a few key sort of elements. One is the Green Campus Committee, which I mentioned earlier, which was formed with students and student leaders. The other is the Green Forum, which brings together professionals from all aspects of the university, whether it's procurement, whether it's the upper levels of administration, teaching, food services, represented. And then the Sustainability Review Group is an annual self-reflection and evaluation of our practices at the university, and sort of how, judging how we're doing and how to move forward. 2016, which I mentioned, was the sustainability strategy was released. And at this, you can see in this this graphic on the right, where we have wheels and cogs, and sort of bringing out the interlinkages between all these different systems. But at the core of it is learning and teaching, realizing this is what we do as an institution, and this is really how we can impact our larger community by the students that leave here as engaged, active citizens, informed citizens who, hopefully are have a focus on sustainability. Also key to here is our well-being, the foods we eat, how we take care of ourselves and the environment around us. Other cogs in the wheel, of course, are procurement, very, very important. Also how we handle our waste, how we handle our energy consumption. These aspects of the sort of business side of the university, very important. How our research is focused, or how much of our research really is looking at, satisfying the SDG targets, and which is becoming more and more important now with funding agencies, and a demonstration by the in the proposal process of trying to advance these specific SDG targets. So also at the core of the sustainability strategy are the three elements, of course, the environment, the society, and the economy, and trying to find sort of this equilibrium balance point between the three so that we're all satisfied, because that's when sustainability really starts to take focus, when we have all sort of three of these working in tandem and in balance with each other. That we need the environment as the basis, the foundation of our life. We need the society and the weaving together of our society into communities which are fair and equitable. But we also need a healthy, robust economies for the trading of goods and services and information. Another key enabler for sustainability at UCC was the launching of an academic strategy in 2018. And core to this are 6 priority areas, which were also called strands. And you can see the one that's most important to this conversation today is priority number 1, which is developing a connected curriculum. And this is based on 6 key concepts in that graphic on the right. And going into these areas of employability, global reach, community engagement, but we also have transdisciplinarity and sustainability, very, very critical pieces to the puzzle, as well as research-based teaching, which we'll be coming back around to that as well in a little bit. So again, we have sustainability brought into focus strategically for our objectives in the university, which is very, very important. A part of the connected curriculum that emerged was a self-reflective tool. And looking at those 6 areas, those 6 strands that I showed you and this is just looking at the sustainability strand, sort of focusing in on this. And it's a way that we can sort of judge and evaluate not only the redesign of a curriculum, but also the introduction of new curriculum, in seeing where it sort of fits on this scale. So having a way of standardizing the process. And on the right is sort of just the rudimentary treatment of sustainability. Maybe this is a novice who's just coming in and approaching sustainability for the first time. But and what we're trying to do really is help people grow toward the right. So they may come in, or you may have sort of the intermediate that's already established, and they're looking at the sustainability through the lens of their discipline, and they may look at issues like green media. They may look at circular economy or something like this as a factor. So good work, important in the structure, but again, trying to move people off toward the right a bit more, and then we sort of come to really what's the true intermediate stage of, using an interdisciplinary approach to look at least one SDG target, and how the work of a particular discipline or whatever, or this particular module may be thinking about advancing that target. How can we do that concretely? And as we get deeper, and this is probably a very key part, is to have it in the assessment process, because that's when it becomes real to the student, when they know that they're on the line for it and they're being held accountable for it through the assessment. But it also shows the student that the staff member thinks it important enough to make this part of the assessment. So, and then to have that related to the learning outcomes, which is very, very important. And finally, sort of the pinnacle of this process would be to have to be looking at the design features of the program, of the module, but have it to also be there with research-based learning. So we're having the instructors' research expertise is being brought to bear in the classroom to see where it fits into the theory, to the course content, and to see what kind of sort of intersection and hybrid can emerge from that. And then to be using this in the form of sort of getting an action-oriented approach, to having the students be creating tangible outputs, whether it's some kind of a research project or creating videos or something that can be turned externally, but also, if possible, working with community partners too. So again, we're bringing SDGs out into the community, and we're also helping the community start to handle and grasp and maybe advance some of the SDG goals and the targets. So now getting back to this ASHE evaluation, the STARS assessment that was conducted at UCC, and it's got a reputation for being very comprehensive. There is Costa and Wareed bring out in their paper, but this also it does cover a lot of different areas of the university, and where UCC scored very well is in our engagement, coordination, innovation, these sorts of processes we score very high. And this is largely part of the Green Campus and the different green teams and sort of getting that engagement out there and coordinating our efforts. And so we did really well with that. And what's really good about this this STARS assessment is it gives us benchmarks. It gives us ways to see, are we moving forward, are we slipping, or are we just remaining sort of static in our advancement of the sustainability agenda. So again, it gives us something to compare to, and I think so the next time we come to this reevaluation process, we can see if we're moving forward. But it's also great for a gap analysis, and what it showed us was that we did have some weaknesses in the curriculum, at least by their metrics. And you can see on the right here is the wheel of the SDGs, the 17 SDGs. And the inner ring here is showing us the number of modules that are actually covering the SDGs. And in terms of our overall curriculum, this was only 6%. So it gave us a realization that we really needed to develop something and to move forward with the curriculum. So education for sustainable development, much talked about. I'm sure it's going to be a very common focus at the conference. But let's think about it for a little bit in terms of, we want our students to have the knowledge. We want them to move forward with sort of the intellect, and we want them to understand so that they can to use this knowledge in different ways. And we want them to know, the how, to have skills to express this knowledge. But probably one of the most important parts is the values. The why are we doing this? Because this is where wisdom can emerge. And it can be argued that a lack of wisdom has gotten us into the problems we have today with issues like climate change, which are existential crises that we have to cope with and to find solutions to. Where we did have the know-how to do many things, but we maybe have not had the wisdom to think far enough in advance about the consequences of our actions. So by trying to get these values in place, we hope that this will help empower our students to be agents of change. So in Ireland, we have a framework that right now is currently being revised for the next edition. But a part of this is, again, looking for informed, active citizens, enabling our students to move forward and to make contributions for a sustainable future. So this is key to that document. So outcomes that we're looking for, we're really looking to modify, to inform the students really to make their own change, to be their own change in the world in many ways. And we see, that there's a number of ways that one can look at this, but one that we like is, to encourage that we have, these rankings, we have this status, but and this is sort of the encouragement we have to advance, and to maintain these. But we're engaging the community, we're engaging our researchers through this SDG toolkit. We're engaging the teaching staff to exemplify our best practices is very important, because this is how we lead by example. Whether it's cutting our waste, whether it's not allowing disposable cups into the library, only allowing reusable cups, to not allow plastics, to be sold, and to really reduce our plastic output in the waste stream, and to enable recycling, to enable all sorts of things. We're trying to enable with green e-bikes, electric bikes, to give students the option to try them out for test rides and to hopefully to see what's possible in the world and how they can again be the change in the world. So we also see a need to sort of address ESD from a very holistic approach. And as academics, there's a tendency to really focus on the cognitive domain of Bloom's taxonomy and really look at the intellectual development, the knowledge gathering, and how deep the understanding, and can we evaluate and synthesize information. But sometimes it's been at the detriment of the affective and the psychomotor. So we're really trying to step back and look at the whole person, and just trying to develop whole people to really look at that are really with a strong value core, with and being action oriented. And within ESD, this is sort of emerging now as a model of a head, hearts, and hand. So it's the intellect being together with the heart, the emotion, and also the hands, the action. So trying to bring these together, and we have, again, the balance of the three, that sort of critical sort of intersection point at the middle is where we really have the best performance of a whole person. So now, again, coming back to this idea of a sustainability ecosystem, a whole university approach. It's going to take all facets working, top down, bottom up. There's no one way it's going to do it. It's got to be really happening from all different dimensions. The stakeholders need to be engaged. They need to be represented across the whole spectrum. But there's also this, so we have the bottom up coming up through the student movements, through the green campus, and even through the climate striking that's been happening in the last few years. There's been a lot of active engagement there amongst our students. The top down, which again is the university approach, looking at the different frameworks, having the strategic plans in place to really try and advance these agendas. But there's also working at the middle and trying to keep a connectivity between this top down and bottom up, and to make a cohesion. So this is where the green team would come in. This is where something like a university-wide module comes in, where we have students and staff together as students in a classroom discussing these ideas of sustainability in a very transdisciplinary way. But then sort of the outer sphere of this is looking at these, we have these metrics on the right, which are also giving us frameworks to judge our practices, to make our decision processes through. So the green flag is not just an award, but it's also a framework of practice. The same with the ASHE stars and the green metrics program. So it gives us a way to sort of be framing our decisions on a day-to-day basis. And on the left there, thinking in terms of, the national strategy that we have in Ireland for, ESD, but also looking at, our energy efficiency, the ISO 50001 plan of reducing our energy consumption, and our campus engagement charter with, with the larger community. So in conclusion, embedding sustainability is happening in all facets, and it really needs to happen that way for us to be addressing SDGs. We need to think of all our practices within a university structure, to be thinking as a business, but also to be thinking about how we're infusing our students with the knowledge, with the understanding, and with the wisdom to move forward and to be change makers once they leave our purview at the university. So it's, again, these top-down, bottom-up approaches, flexible, dynamic approaches to be evolving. Ecosystems to function and to remain viable need to evolve, and that's what we need to embrace as well, to really be concerned about our values and living our values on a day-to-day basis, and then bringing our local communities together in this process. And again, looking at these different assessments and ratings of how they guide our practices on the day-to-day, how they guide our decision-making processes. And this is happening more and more in the corporate world, where the board members may be reflecting on the SDGs in their decision processes. So if we're sort of teaching these ideals and these values and this information to our students, they'll be more viable in the workplace, especially if they themselves are starting up their own startup companies, that they can include this at the very foundation of that approach. So in conclusion, I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you.